you keep trying to fix your productivity. New apps, new systems, new morning routines. And maybe it works for a week, maybe even two. But then you're back where you started, procrastinating, spinning, stuck. And you think the problem is discipline or motivation or that you just need a better system. But what if the problem isn't productivity at all? What if it's about your identity? Here's what I mean by that. Every action you take or don't take is a reflection of who you believe you are, your identity. And if there's a gap between who you are and who you need to do the thing you're trying to do, your brain will resist every single time. It doesn't matter how good your system is, it doesn't matter how motivated you feel in the moment. If the action doesn't align with your identity, you're not going to sustain it. And this is why productivity advice fails most people, because productivity advice assumes the problem is execution, time management, focus, discipline. But for most people, the problem isn't execution. It's that they're trying to execute as someone they're actually not. And their brain knows it, so it sabotages them. Not consciously, but it happens. You tell yourself you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and work on your business, but you're not a person who wakes up at 5 a.m. You're not a person who has a business yet. So your brain says, this doesn't make sense. We don't do this. And you hit the snooze button. You tell yourself you're going to post on social media every single day, but you're not a person who puts themselves out there like that. You're not a creator. You're someone who stays quiet. So your brain resists and you procrastinate. The action doesn't match the identity. And when that happens, the identity always wins every single time. So let's talk about how to actually fix this. So your brain is wired to keep you consistent with who you believe you are. It's a survival mechanism. Consistency means predictability, and predictability means safety. So when you try to do something that conflicts with your identity, your brain sees it as a threat. Not a physical threat, but a threat to your sense of self. And it pushes back. And this is why willpower doesn't work long term, because willpower is you trying to force yourself to act like someone you're not. And your brain is fighting you the whole time. Eventually, the brain wins because it always does. Think about it like this. If you see yourself as someone who's lazy and you try to build a habit of working out every day, what's going to happen? You might do it for a few days, maybe even a week, but then your brain starts whispering to you, this isn't who we are. We don't do this. This feels fake. And you stop. Not because you lack discipline, but because the behavior doesn't match your identity. And your brain will always pull you back to what's familiar, to what feels true about who you are. And this is why some people can work 12-hour days and call it normal, and other people can't get themselves to work for 2 hours without burning out. It's not about capability, it's about identity. The 12-hour person sees themselves as someone who works hard, the 2-hour person doesn't. So the behavior follows the identity. Most people who are stuck aren't stuck because they don't know what to do. They're stuck because they don't see themselves as the kind of person who does that thing. You want to build a business, but you're not an entrepreneur. You're an employee. That's how you see yourself. So every time you sit down to work on your business, it actually feels wrong, like you're pretending, and your brain actually resists. You want to create content, but you're not a creator. You're someone who consumes. So every time you try to post something, you feel exposed, like you're doing something you're not supposed to, and you procrastinate. You want to make a big career change, but you're not someone who takes risk. You're someone who plays it safe. So every time you think about making the move, your brain floods you with fear and doubt, and you stay exactly where you are. Action you want to take requires a version that doesn't exist yet. And until you close the gap, you need to struggle. No amount of productivity hacks will fix it. And here's the thing that most people miss. The gap isn't about skills or knowledge. It's about belief. You might know exactly how to start a business. You might have all the information you need, but if you don't believe you're the kind of person who does that, you won't do it. Or you'll start and stop over and over. And this is why people can read every book, take every course, and still not move forward. Because the problem isn't information, it's identity. And until you address that, nothing changes. So, how do you actually change your identity? Because you can't just decide to be someone different and expect your brain to go along with it. It doesn't work like that. So, for one, you got to start with evidence. Your identity is built on evidence, the stories you tell about yourself, about who you are. And those stories are based on your past behavior. So, if you want to shift your identity, you need to create new evidence, small actions that prove to yourself that you're becoming the person you want to be. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to take actions that align with that new identity consistently over time. You want to be someone who creates content? Well, start by posting just once. That's evidence. Do it again, more evidence. Keep doing it, and eventually your brain starts to believe it. Oh, we're someone who creates content now. This is what we do. You want to be someone who builds businesses? Start by working on the business for just 15 minutes because that is actually evidence. Do it again tomorrow and the next day, and eventually your brain catches up. Oh, we're someone who works on businesses. This is actually normal for us. The key is consistency, not intensity. So you're not trying to prove it to anyone else, you're proving it to yourself. And small, consistent actions are how you do that. And here's what happens over time those small actions start to add up, not just in results, but in actual belief. So every time you do the thing, you're telling your brain, see, we can do this. This is who we are now. And your brain adjusts slowly, but it adjusts. And this is why people who make real change don't do it through big dramatic shifts. They do it through small, boring, consistent actions that compound over months. Because that's what actually rewrites your identity, not the big moment, the small pattern. Two is you need to change the language you use about yourself. The way you talk about yourself matters because language shapes your identity. If you keep saying, I'm not a morning person, well, guess what? You're reinforcing that identity. Your brain hears it and it keeps you consistent with it. But if you start saying, I'm working on becoming a morning person, you're opening the door. You're giving your brain permission to change. You're not claiming the new identity just yet, but you're signaling that it's possible. Same thing with, I'm not creative, or I'm not good at this, or I'm just not that kind of person. Every time you say it, you're locking yourself in. So stop saying it. Start saying, I'm learning, or I'm working on it, or I'm becoming that thing. And number three, surround yourself with people who reflect the identity you want. You become who you're around, not because you're copying them, but because being around them normalizes that behavior. It makes it feel less foreign, less fake. If everyone around you is stuck, playing small, avoiding risk, that's going to feel normal to you. And anything outside of that is going to feel uncomfortable. So what'll happen is you'll stay stuck. But if you're around people who are doing the thing you want to do, it stops feeling like a big deal. It starts feeling possible. And your brain starts believing that maybe you can do it too. This is why communities matter, why environments matter. You're not just looking for support, you're looking for evidence that the identity you want is real, that other people like you are living it. And that makes it easier for your brain to accept that you can too. And this doesn't mean that you need to change completely, you know, change your friend group or move to a new city. Sometimes it's just as simple as joining an online community, following different people, spending time in spaces where the behavior you want is normal. Because your brain is always scanning for what's normal. And if you're only exposed to one way of being, that's what feels real. But when you expose yourself to other ways, other possibilities, your brain starts to consider them too. And number four, stop waiting to feel like the person before you act like the person. This is the biggest mistake people make. They think they need to feel like an entrepreneur before they start the business. They think they need to feel confident before they put themselves out there. But it doesn't work that way, right? You don't feel like the person first, you act like the person first, and then the feeling follows. You're never going to feel completely ready. You're never going to feel like you belong. Not until you've done it enough times that your brain actually believes it. So stop waiting for the feeling. Just take the action and trust that the identity will catch up. Because here's what most people don't realize confidence doesn't create action, action creates confidence. You don't become confident and then do the thing. You do the thing and then you become confident. The feeling follows the behavior, not the other way around. So If you're waiting to feel like the right person before you start, you're going to be waiting forever. The only way to become that person is to start acting like them now, before you're ready. And here's what I want you to think about, right? Who do you need to become to do the thing you're trying to do? Not what you need to do. Who do you need to be? Right? And then ask yourself, what's one small action I can take today that would be evidence of that identity? Not a big action, not a life changing move, just one small thing that proves to yourself that you're becoming that person. And then do it. And then do it again tomorrow and the day after that. Because your brain doesn't change because you decided to change. It changes because you gave it evidence that you're changing. And evidence comes from action, not intention. If this resonates with you, head over to natehooks.com. Link is in the description below. There you'll find links to a free community I've created called Beyond Overthinking. And if you want to work with me personally one-on-one, I've got a few options there as well. Either way, thanks for watching. And remember, you don't need a better system. You need a better identity. So start building it.